You are in the making. All new episodes air on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. We hope you enjoy. Please follow along. So Natalie, you said that music is your heart, and it's obviously how central it is to how you connect with the world. What role has music played in shaping your identity and the rhythm in your life?
Genuinely am obsessed with music, and I just wanted to be a DJ and tell jokes in between songs.
You've gone through multiple reinvention. How do you, when it's time to shift or evolve into a new version of yourself?
Just follow the strong urges that come within me, and I know myself well enough now to know that they're always changing.
Becoming isn't really about discovering some brand new version of who you are. It's about unlearning the messages that told you you had to be less.
What is something that you've had to carry quietly that has really shaped you the most?
The hardest things I've had to carry quietly was the pressure to be everything to everyone.
Is it hard for you to ask for help?
Absolutely. Hey everybody, and welcome to In the Making. I'm Michael Betz, and I'm also the author of In the Making, which is now out on Amazon and soon to be out in Barnes & Noble and Kobo. You know, it explores the messy middle of growth, leadership, and becoming who you're meant to be. And I'm so excited because my today's guest is one and the only Natalie Jones. Hey, Natalie.
Hi.
She's a Cincinnati native, a radio host, comedian, style icon, my future best friend, and someone who makes every room better just by being in it. Her life is full of movement, literally and figuratively, and we're diving into reinvention, confidence, and staying curious no matter where the road leads. Welcome, Natalie. We're so excited to have you.
Mike, thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on the book. This is just freaking fantastic.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, we're going to flip the mic, no pun intended, and interview you for once and talk about your really cool life. More to come back with you soon. In the Making, out today in print, digital, on Amazon. Get your copy today at amzn.to/4C5S365. The link is in the bio. Let's build something real together. In the Making. And welcome back. We're here with Natalie Jones, a good friend and Cincinnati celebrity. So Natalie, you said that music is your heartbeat, and it's obviously how central it is to how you connect with the world. What role has music played in shaping your identity and the rhythm in your life?
And I would say, you know, upon looking back, I mean, obviously I work in music now. I'm on the radio. I'm a DJ. I've been a huge fan and follower of music my entire life. Like I always say, when I was a kid, I was definitely never one to sit around and watch cartoons for hours on end, but I would watch MTV for as long as anyone would let me. And if I wasn't watching MTV because like one of my other siblings was hogging the TV, then I was laying on the floor listening to CDs, tapes, records all day, every day. That's just all I've ever done. In fact, when I was in high school, this is so crazy. When I was in high school, I used to drink like a pot of coffee before I went to bed, and I wouldn't sleep just to stay awake to watch all of the videos on MTV2 over and over and over and over and over again. Like I've been obsessed with this forever. And looking back in my life, like when everyone in their 20s was getting married and doing all that stuff, I was, you know, just following music and music festivals. And I wound up in radio on a volunteer radio show because I genuinely am obsessed with music, and I just wanted to be a DJ and tell jokes in between songs. So, and then here I am. So it all makes sense now, you know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, and it's really something that I admire because, you know, I think you have definitely, just knowing you, you've reinvented yourself. You know, you lived your first 10 years of your adult life in Colorado, and then you kind of boomeranged back to Cincinnati because you wanted to be close to your family. You know, it's just, you know, kind of a beautiful thing, but then really being able to do something that I don't know if you went to school for that or if it just naturally you had to learn. Today, it's a lot easier to learn because there's more creators out there. But when you were doing it, you probably had to teach yourself if you weren't traditionally trained. So I love that you were able to really kind of take your passion and get paid for it. So do you want to kind of maybe talk about like that? Because I think you went into, you know, radio a little bit later in life, right?
Oh yeah, I didn't start my career with virtually no experience until 32. And it was not on my radar. I never once thought I would be in radio all growing up, any moment before I got the job. And when I had my volunteer radio show in Colorado, it was, I did it twice a month, maybe, if I could. And it was just for fun. And it was in the morning and I didn't think too much about it. And this has been a vehicle of itself. But I would say how I got here now in retrospect is very simple, is that I've just always followed what I loved. And as cliche as that sounds, I've tried to have real jobs. I've tried to have, jobs you had to wear a pantsuit and learn Excel. I still to say I've never made a resume. I don't know how to use Excel. I failed that class in college and I never learned it.
You don't put resumes in Excel. You usually put them in.
Oh, see? Well, you know what? It just, there you go. And I found and followed what I loved. And I will say this, I am a big goal setter, and I would never make I never make a micro plan of how I'm going to do it. I always try. It doesn't happen, but I am a big goal setter, and the goals I made were always about arts and things that I loved. And then they always happen if you put your mind to it. Like I would make these goals and not put real time parameters on all of them. And somehow they always happen. And really at the end of the day, I think you just got to believe in it. Like I just believe that it would always be okay.
Well, and it's also, you got to believe in yourself, but you'll figure it out. You're resilient, you're strong, you can figure it out. And so that's the exciting thing. That's a common word that I say because, some people call it like fake it to make it. I call it, you'll figure it out.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you stay happy along the way, I followed happiness in responsible ways, I think is maybe, I don't know. I had a lot of fun along the way, but I just followed the flow and what was really driving me. And to me, it was simple enough,
Well, that's beautiful. Moving on, you've gone through multiple reinventions. We talked about, you moved all over, not really all over, just found your place right after college, right after, when you become an adult. How do you, when it's time to shift or evolve into a new version of yourself, what is that philosophy? Is it is it on the whim? Is it calculated? Is it maybe a sexy accident? What does that look like for you when you have reinvented yourself?
I could say I have done it long. It's never a sexy accident. That's for sure. And I feel like it's never calculated. As much as I try to be calculated, I just follow the strong urges that come within me. And I know myself well enough now to know that they're always changing. And this is something that wasn't always easy. When I would feel the change, I used to fight it a lot. And now I go with it and I respect it. My sister-in-law once said to me, when your body changes and when you change, you got to change with it. And when the forces are pushing you, or you are naturally gravitating in another direction, it's important to listen to that.
Well, it sounds like you have a wise sister-in-law that that's an amazing push to you. We kind of briefly talked about this in our pre-interview prep, but you do a lot of things. I have a lot of friends in media, both broadcast, reporting, traditionally print, and then also radio. And sometimes I'm just like, I thought I do a lot. And then I see you, I listen to you, not only on your show, see it's not just doing the show, it's the prep, getting the guests, doing the marketing, but then you're out most of the time doing things for the good of the community, either doing something for charity or hosting or just badass DJing, like what you like to do. Yeah. One, do you sleep? And two, how do you manage that kind of life?
Oh boy, do I sleep? Not very well. And how do I manage it? It's just shit show. Am I allowed to say that? I think that everybody behind closed doors is a little bit, and I have my own flow. I do say I try my best to stay as organized about it as I can in my own way, which doesn't make sense to anybody else, but it makes sense to me. And I'm not going to press my suit the night before and hang it in my car, but I will roll it up in a bag and take it with me and have it ready to go and make it all work at the end. And I think I like, you just gotta you have to just do it, and you're going to mess up along the way. And I got really good at, just walking through whatever happens, and you get stronger. That sounds so cliche. Like, you get stronger along the way. And I have like
Is
3
that like a
calendars.
Kelly Clarkson reference? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Sorry, that's my
Yeah,
girl
for
who said
sure.
that.
I can say it's like, wish I had some recipe for it, but like, I just commit to it, and then I do everything I think that I have to do to be prepared and ready for it, and then I just do it. And sometimes I hit the mark, and sometimes I'm totally off. And then you really take time to think. I reflect a lot on what I can do better, and I always am trying to be better at everything that I do. And that's it. Yeah, it's kind
That's
of
beautiful. No, so one thing that I'm, interested about, and I write about in the book, and I think, I said it in a different way, more on because I'm a gay man, but like I've had times where I thought I've needed to, be quieter in a room or dim my light in a room to fit in. And, you are very similar to me. We're both like very enthusiastic, excited at life. We love people. We're connectors. And we're friends of friends, a lot of that. We have a million mutual friends. So you got, has there been times when you felt pressured really to tone it down, to fit into someone else's idea of success?
Yes, 100%. Well, we can start from the beginning. I'm from Cincinnati, and I went to 12 years of Catholic school. So, and I could even say in radio, no one put the pressure on me, but I put it on myself. When I first got hired at Q, I didn't think that I really fit in. And so I was trying to dress like everybody else did, trying to dress like a woman in Ohio would. And I had already changed so much upon moving and growing and so much, I feel like I just tried to fit in. And my boss one day, oh my gosh, this is funny. So we used to have a speaker in the studio that was on the ceiling, and she could call you while you were on air and talk to you. And one day, this was in the beginning in my
That's
first
not
year.
stressful at all.
Oh my God, I called it the voice of God. And I was like, the voice of God would come through the ceiling, and I would just get terrified. But she came through the ceiling one day, and she just laid it out. And she was like, what are you doing? You're not being yourself. I can't stand this any longer. Like, let it all go, girl. And she was like, do the F. She said, do whatever the F you want, and like, let it go. Just stop
That's
all
an
of it.
amazing boss.
Stop
Wow.
all of this. And I took, and I'm not going to lie, that moment, I was like, heard. I stopped that moment and just like came into myself. And then I just have been moving forward since. But I think, how do you want to say this? I think that what people don't realize, people in media or whatnot, like, I am terrified before I do any gig that I do. I get so nervous. I get freaking terrified. I did stand up last night, and I'm like, my face is red. I'm shaking. I've been doing this for like 10 plus years. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. And that happens before I do every DJ gig, every time I speak anywhere, anytime. Like, it doesn't end. You just do it anyway, truly.
Yeah,
and even being on radio, it took me 5 years before I wasn't terrified, before I went and pressed on the microphone at my job in the studio every day for 5 years, every time. Just like, oh God, here we go again. All right. Just do whatever you got to do, and
it's like you kind of shared with me to give me a little confidence, because just to be honest, I was a little frazzled because I had a little situation and I had to move locations. And Natalie's just like, I'm very buttoned up. That's my corporate past life. I may be like, like this out in that, but like internally, I am a list person, I'm a doer, and I'm a good boy. But, and so you're just like, hey, you don't have to read off a script. You don't have to just let it, what you're going to say. And I'm like thinking in the back of my head, I didn't look at our script before. And so kind of, I know what we're going to say, but you gave me confidence, and, that's kind of awesome, because you're putting yourself in perspective, because, we all get nervous, and I think it's really important to put ourselves, we all put our pants on the same way. So regardless. So, listening to you, Natalie, I'm really reminded of something I wrote in chapter 1, and it is really this cool exercise that I did, which was a letter to my younger self. We all like are growing up and we're completely different and all of that. And that becoming isn't really about discovering some brand new version of who you are. It's about unlearning the messages that told you you had to be less, less loud, less wild, less bold, and I really think your story shows us that identity isn't fixed, it's fluid. And the real growth happens not when we invent ourselves to fit in, but when we evolve into, the honest version of who we are and who we've always been. So we're going to cut at this portion. And if you're listening and you've ever felt like you were too much or maybe not enough for the world around you, let this be your reminder. You don't need to tone it down. You just need to turn it up in the direction of truth. We'll be right back with Natalie Jones, one of our popular segments, the fire round questions.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay.
Natalie, you're in radio and you love music. What's a favorite band or jam you're digging right now?
Ooh, right now I'm obsessed with Nipsey Hussle.
Oh, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, bringing it back.
Is there a specific song?
Ooh, yeah, hold on. This Motivate and Hustle is the song I've had on repeat the past couple days.
I feel like that's your life mantra, so I love it. I'm going to listen to it after this.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, I can't get enough of it right now. And the bass, I love. Here's something. I love real rap music over the decades. Not like pop rap as well, but real in the cut.
Yeah. Like 90s kind of?
80s, all of it.
I love it.
I feel like there's a lot of garbage music from all genres and a lot of greatness in all genres as well. So
yeah, love that. We're back with Natalie in another fire round. Natalie, what's something you do to rebalance you and get back to your core?
Hot yoga, 100%, as much as I can.
Do you have a shout out of your favorite place?
Yeah, well, I go to Embra here in Cincinnati, and I formerly Moto, and I started at Moto in LA, and then I just kept on going here. So
I love it.
As much as I can, yeah.
Awesome. Fire round question. Hey, Natalie, what's a book or a podcast that you're listening or reading to that's really kind of filling your bucket right now?
All right. Well, number one, I always listen to the Rich Roll podcast. It's the only podcast I've consistently been listening to for 10 years.
Besides In the Making.
But I've been a big fan of Rich Roll. His voice now is just soothing to me. It makes me feel at home. He's my comfort blanket. But then also the Shift to Light, Rachel DeRocher.
Yes.
It's so ironic that you say that because she's a friend of mine. And also I have been doing the gratitude journal every day. If you could see. And I have to we're on day 27. And then I have the actual book. It's similar to yours. It's a novel and workbook released at the same time. So
that's funny.
I'm in it. I'm working through it.
Awesome. You got this, girl. Fire round, Natalie. If you could tell the young Natalie one thing that you know now, what would it be?
Stop smoking. Follow your bliss. All those doubts in your head, girl, they don't actually mean anything. They're all fake. Just, it's fine. Keep going.
That's awesome. Thanks, Natalie.
Yeah.
Welcome back to In the Making. Well, Natalie, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm having a blast.
I'm just going to tell you, you have this contagious joy, but I know that kind of light usually comes from, a deep place. Let's talk about the stuff, beneath the shine. I really want to know, what's a challenge or experience that you've been through that, maybe shaped your outlook or made you reevaluate your path?
Oh, yeah. Well, I could talk at length about that. A lot of things. Well, I'm the middle of 5 kids and my family is really crazy. And I feel like I've been the glue with that for a long time. And I have a younger brother who's 13 years old, younger than me. And I've been I've been really involved in his life since day one, which has been huge. Like when I was in college, I feel like I would spend most of my college time with him more than anything else. And then moved away. And then upon moving back, both of my elderly parents were sick. My dad has passed, 3-year battle with cancer. I watched
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I mean, it's life. I watched that happen and he literally died in my arms. And That was, oh, it was beautiful. It truly was. It was
No,
me
I
and
lost my dad about 15 years ago, and I get it. Like it sucks.
yeah,
So
it definitely does. And it was really, but it was also looking back like so beautiful. And I love the sacrifice that I made to spend time with him. Like I would go visit him in the hospital on Friday and Saturday nights, and we'd hold hands and watch the news. It was so great. And then also my mom has a disease similar to ALS, and she's in a wheelchair with it now. And watching her slowly degenerate from that, to be real about it, is tough. And now, you know, I mean, I help her put her pants on and sponge bathe her when she comes, and or help her do her everything, you know. And that is something that caretaking is very difficult and has truly, truly shaped me. And I didn't realize when I first started my career in Cincinnati, I was also for like watching my parents do this at the same time. And it was a lot, and it makes things messy. And I think it's important during those times to prioritize family and embrace the mess as much as you can. Like whenever anyone is going through those times, like put your family first, get your job done, you know, but like, no, like I'm so happy now that I sacrificed the time and prioritized those moments with those people to be there for them and for my family. It goes how it goes. And everyone's story is different, but yet so similar. So
wow, yeah, like I'm getting like a little emotional because I didn't even know that, and
yeah.
I knew that your mom had some, obviously some health scares and whatnot, but that is,
Mhm.
I don't see how you stay so bright all the time, and I bet there's just times of tears, and it's like, but you
Yeah.
got to be strong. And it's kind of funny because even though I come from a big family too, I'm the baby of 6, and I feel like I'm in the stage where, don't get me wrong, I'm very fortunate. My mom's healthy, she's very independent, but she's close to 70, and like there's things that I'm starting to take on and becoming the parent of my parents. And, we're similar. We don't have kids. Our siblings probably, I don't know. I think you have nieces and nephews, but
Mhm.
so I'm the one who, a lot of the brunt gets put on to like figure things out. Or it's one of those things where I think we're at a point in our life, we're both turning 40 this year. I hope I'm allowed saying that,
Oh
but I think
yeah,
we're both
please. I'm
proud
proud of
about
it.
it. We look
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
But it's just such a evolution at a different stage of life. But yeah, when you really say, like, they're not lying to you when you need to focus on your priorities, and if you have a good family, you should be good to them. And I love that you really dedicated your
Yeah.
spirit and energy to that. That's really rough.
Well,
Yeah.
I think you got to try to find the joy and silver lining in everything. And to be honest, Michael, like when I moved back, I was living in LA pursuing stand-up comedy and like living my dream, following the dream. And then my parents got sick, and I had a good friend a man tell me, who was living out west, and he's from the Midwest as well. And he was like, my parents got sick and I didn't go home, and it's the thing I regret
Regret.
the most. He's like, I think about it every single day. And my dad died years ago. And I was like, well, I am not going to regret this. And I also would love to be a part of my family. I think that the fear of regret, I think that also equals love at the same time. What I learned through that process, I which was the so much beauty of it. But I learned through that process that I believed in myself enough to know that like I can do my thing and my craft anywhere. It's not going anywhere. When I want to tap
Yep.
in, I can tap in. Right now, I have to do this. And then I believe it was all meant to be, because I came home and within 6 weeks of no experience, I was on the radio in Cincinnati. This is a sign that it was the right thing to do. And what's crazy is upon moving back, you talk about changes. To me, changes hit me hard. They hit me deep, cry a lot. I'm a Cancer. I'm very emotional. But I do them anyway. I'm like, I know I'm doing the right thing. No matter how I'm going to react, I will do it. And moving home was so difficult. Before I landed back in Cincinnati, I was in LA. I went back to Colorado where my friends were for 2 months. I mean, I was just a working mess, a high functioning mess, and just cried every day and was like, my parents are sick and I can't believe this. I mean, it was great. I was terrified and scared and sad. And one of my friends said, am I going away dinner? She looked me in the eye and she was like, do you think you're doing the right thing? I said, 100% yes. And she was like, the universe and the world will reward you for this decision if you know you're
That's
doing the
amazing.
right thing, coming from a beautiful place of love. then I came home and like everything has fallen into place. Like, isn't that so cool? Like, it was just
It
so
is.
amazing. So
Well, and you came back in a really good time because Cincinnati's pretty cool, and I
yeah.
think like when you're younger, you don't see it, but then like the
Mhm.
renaissance that Cincinnati has become, like I pinch myself because I'm not from here and I'm like, I've reaped this because I've been here since 2012
Oh
and,
yeah.
watch the city reinvent itself. So I think important for me because I definitely get misunderstood, I think. You
Mhm.
got this joyful, playful exterior, but have you ever felt misunderstood because of it?
Yeah, like all the time. I feel like I like kind of struggle with it a lot, especially now. I would say turning 40 is really hitting me a lot, but I feel like I've created this um la 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 thing, which I am like that a lot, but also like I feel like I have a very serious and very deep side, educated and you know what I mean? I feel like somebody said to me once, "You're a lot smarter than you put off." And I was like, what am I putting out there then? Like, okay, but sometimes that I think I have more depth, but at the same time, I'm in control of that. So I like talking on very serious conversations more than the
Yeah.
lightness, but I love bringing joy to everybody and, at the same time.
Well, it's kind of funny. I was just having a conversation with a couple friends actually. Stevie Carr is one of them who was on the
Great.
show, my first guest, and we are turning 40 is so weird because especially our worlds because we have much older friends and we have
Mhm.
much younger friends, and it's hard for people to identify us because we're either to the young ones where they're old friends or to the older ones where they're young friends. So it's
Yeah.
it's so confusing and a brain like but anyways, that's
No,
all.
in the same vein, I just went on my younger brother's getting married. He's 27 now.
Oh,
And I went,
congratulations to him.
oh, it's great. I'm the officiant of his wedding too.
Oh,
The day before my 40th birthday.
that's
We had
awesome.
the bachelorette party. She had the bachelorette party like last weekend. And it was all the 25, 23 to 27-year-olds in a house and me. And then all the moms and aunts stayed in another house. And
You picked your side.
they put me in the house and I was like, I'll do whatever. I stayed in a bunk bed. I did the whole thing. But I
That's
vibed
awesome.
with the women, with the moms and the aunts a whole lot because they were only 10 years older than me, 15 years older than me. Like I was directly in the middle. And it was a while. It was really fun, but to the same breath, it was like, I feel like I mixed with both. I didn't know what to say to anyone. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So, kind of the last question with this segment, when life, gets heavy, what helps you stay connected, to the core Natalie?
Ooh, movement, 100% movement. Hot yoga is my thing of choice.
And you live right by Sage.
Yeah, I do a lot of yoga and just exercise in general. And I love to raw dog it, as they say. And I love to go to the gym with no electronics on or anything. And I
Wow.
do a lot of meditating and a lot of journaling, like every day. And without that, I don't think I'd know. Yeah, it's really like hot yoga is like saved my life. I do it a lot. I take it very seriously. When I was younger, I was really into meditating before I did yoga, and to find your core center, and once you find it, to hold on to it as long as you can. To me, that's really, really important, and to me, that takes daily practice. And I really value that and take that seriously.
That's awesome. And I think it's so important to, definitely, make sure that you're taking care of yourself because I think so many people don't do that when they have the crazy schedules like you do. And so you're going to burn out if you're not taking care
Oh,
of
for
yourself.
sure. I definitely burn out a lot as well. At least I know now if like my schedule gets too crazy, like this next 6-week block I'm going into, I'm like, oh yeah, by the end of it, I'm gonna be wiped. But that's how it
Yeah.
goes, and I
Yeah.
understand that.
Pneumonia, like
Yeah.
you need to be sick for a week, like.
I do want to say this though. One thing, like when
Excuse me.
we're talking about setting goals and like going through every day, my main goal that I make every single day is to find flow, and then everything else really just falls into place. So I try and prioritize that every single day. That's my main goal. And then everything else comes afterwards.
So when
And
you say flow, does that mean you wake up and you look at your day and you create basically like, these are the things that I want to accomplish, these are the things that I can accomplish? Or is it more like you're finding zen and balance in your body and then you go with the flow?
yeah, a big morning routine I'll know I have things to do, and then I'll know that I need to be in the right mind frame to do it. So I'm a bit like really my morning routine is sacred. I don't do it. I feel like my schedule is crazy. I don't always get it done every single morning, but as much as I can. And then within that, I find flow. And then the rest of the day is exciting to conquer. Like I get excited to I'm going to go to Target, return this, and I'm going to go to work and blah, 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 blah. And then the to-do list comes after that. I write it within that moment, and then I go out and do it every day. And then
That's awesome.
That's about it. Yeah.
Well, and what the journaling is really important. I just started doing that because I seek therapy during COVID, and they're like, the world's going to be completely different whenever this is over, if it's ever over. And I was by myself. I had my dog Hanky Bank, but at the end of the day, you kind of go a little cray cray. And I got on some meds, and that helped me out. But then when I got a business coach when I was starting the Proper Group, and they're like, hey, you need to build your brand. You need to build, you need to build the Proper Group's brand. You're the face of the Proper Group. And so it's probably makes sense for you to write a book. And I was just like, no, that's dumb.
Yeah.
And so I did, I would tell people that as well, because you have to get out there, and in order to get credibility to speak on panels and be keynotes and all of those different things, you got to write a book. So I was really intentional that I was going to write a book that, one, would get the point of the Proper Group across, but also, two, I wanted to make it something that would help other people. And so I basically used a lot of those journals as references to help write the book. And, the talk to the younger Mike, that was the overzealous overachiever, climb the corporate ladder, that, slow down, talk to the Michael Betz, who's, midway in his career, that, maybe is thinking in the back of his head, I'm sick and tired of making other people money. I could be doing this on my own. Go do it on your own. Just push myself. And then talking to people like what I'm doing at the Proper Group, I'm helping people find their second act, still leverage their skill set and their, expertise, but, working smarter and not harder, and becoming fractional executives rather than full-time executives. And so I was able to kind of hit multiple purposes. So I really think it's really important to listen to what you said. And I hope you do something with your, what you've learned through your journals. But I hope everybody else is doing that, because I think at the end of the day, we'll look back and we'll just be like, God, I did that really good, or I should have did it another way, or maybe you can help someone figure it out. So that's what In the Making's about.
I think it's also, dude, everything you just said. Yes. And congratulations on everything. And way to prioritize yourself and prioritize your journey and your intent, which is really, really cool. I feel like once you make the leap, like you can't go back. You're just like, this is my life now. And I did it like so early that I was just like, this is it. Like, this is it forever,
and it's the beautiful thing. Like, we can fail, and then we can pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, surround ourselves by good people. They'll pick you up, and then go do it with great people and collaborate. So we have something exciting. We're going to take a quick break, and then Natalie's going to kind of pro bono do what she does for her day job, and flip the mic. She's gonna come flip me, and then just ask me a little questions about In the Making and my journey. So more with Natalie Jones when we return. I'm back. It's Michael Betz, your host of In the Making podcast, and the proud president and managing partner of the Proper Group. The past year, transforming the Proper Group has been one of the most exhilarating and rewarding experiences of my life. But when people ask, what is the Proper Group? My honest answer is, we don't fully know. Well, let me explain. We do know. We're just building something different. The Proper Group is 70% baked. Our founder, Larry Burns, laid the foundation. Now we're evolving into an elite collective of fractional C-suite leaders driving real sustainable growth. What we're not is a bloated consultancy with junior talent doing the real work, or a siloed agency only focusing on one or two functions. What we are is a cross-functional growth accelerator, a hands-on execution partner embedding with leadership teams. Because when companies grow, they grow fast. And without the right foundation, that growth won't last. That's where we come in. Let's talk, explore what we're building, and see if this would be the right fit for your team. We're just getting started, and come along for the ride. The Proper Group. We're on the move. Visit us at www.theproper.group.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to In the Making. I'm Natalie Jones. I'm here with Michael Betz. We've been talking to him all morning. Well, we've been talking to each other all morning. And this part of the thing, we're flipping the script and I'm asking you questions, Mike, which is, I mean, as much as I love being interviewed, I'm an interviewer by trade. All right, babe. So
I love it.
Let's do this. This is really okay. So you've written this book. Congratulations. It's all about becoming and finding, I feel like, your true north and really living your light and your path. And you write a lot about the invisible labor of leadership, the stuff that no one claps for, which I feel like is the real nit and gritty that makes all the shine happen. What is something that you've had to carry quietly that has really shaped you the most?
That's a good question and a loaded one. But honestly, I really think the hardest things I've had to carry quietly was the pressure to be everything to everyone. I think that's a lot of people like you and me have that. Especially, looking back at the early days and the young Mike who's climbing up the corporate ladder, trying to do all the things, getting the titles, getting the salaries, making my parents proud, making those other people proud. We're both, from big families, and I believe you're also from a Catholic family. So we have Catholic guilt. I talk about that a lot, but really in those early days, building something that especially mattered to me, it was more I was doing it for others. I wasn't doing it for myself. Took a lot of grief built up. I had a lot of burnout, and I definitely had the fear of, letting people down. And so I had to build thicker skin and really truly understand, what my capacity was, and learning how to say no. And that's probably the best thing that I ever taught myself. Really that's one of my mantras is, I say yes to a lot and I still will, but also I know I give better quality work if I, prioritize what's important to me, what's important to those around me, and really, being focused on those things and letting the rest of the noise go. So I think, being able to say no helped me really take that pressure off of me. But I also learned that leadership isn't about, constantly being the strong one. I'm a strong personality. I'm loud and proud. It's also about protecting your soul in the process. It's about surrounding yourself with, people who see you fully, not just for what you produce. I've had a lot of friends that I think use me for fringe benefits and, getting for my hard work pays off. When I was VP of marketing for the Inquirer, I had a front row at every seat and at every show, at every function. And I brought my friends around with me because that's what I do. I'm a giver. But then you realize, and it's not always about the physical things or the tangible things. It's also the energy that you're giving. Are you getting that back? And so I think, we build a lot of not realizing that's happening until after it's happened so long that we pretty much just have muscle memory to just let it happen. And so I think that just because no one's clapping doesn't mean that you can't clap back. No, I'm just joking. No. I just think it's sometimes, it's important to really evaluate who's in your life and really making sure you're surrounded by the folks that are going to be your best self. I bring up that, through my life, I've had toxic people, but I've also had amazing people. And I call those amazing people who have been with me every walk of my life, every journey. Young Mike, this version will be with me till I'm dead or they're dead. They're my, personal board of directors. They are people who have been my mentors, people who have been my peers, people who have worked for me, friends in the community, collaborators. And those are the kind of people I want to work with. And that's really, kind of this chapter and my next chapter with the proper group is I'm a smart person when it comes to certain things. And I'm proud to be the president of the company, but I'm surrounding myself with so many other people smarter than me. That's just going to make this company so much smarter, grow so much quicker, and letting my ego aside and letting other people stand up because there's enough pie at the table and there's enough chairs for us all to do good things. So,
amen. Well, that is a fantastic answer. I do want to go back. Do you have this pressure that you are talking about? Do you put it on yourself? Is there anyone else that is coming from, or is it just you?
I think in the younger days, I think I'm very grateful for what my family gave me. I grew up in humble means, but my parents knew education was important. They put me through private school. They paid for where I wanted to go to school, undergrad. And, they made sure that I was able to be my best self by providing resources. And so I never took that for granted because I knew how hard they worked because they had to pay for, 6 kids doing that. And, they did without. And so I think deep down inside, I always felt that I had to prove myself, to prove my keep, and my parents never put that pressure on me. But yeah, I think it's going back into, I want to make those who invested in me and loved me proud. And I want to return that to them someday. So, in a weird double-edged sword, I think it all stems back to me putting the pressure on myself because there was no fringe expectations. My parents wanted me to succeed, be a good person, and leave this place a better place, just like that they have, not wanting anything in return. And so now that I realize that as an adult, I think I'm now putting less pressure on me because I'm thinking of other people. And that's just such a weird thing that, we put stress on ourselves because we're thinking about other people and what they think. Without talking to them, without asking them and all of that. Don't get me wrong, there's sometimes expectations the other way around. But yeah, going back to your question, I think a lot of it was put on myself. That Catholic guilt.
Amen. Well, you talk a lot about community and collaboration being game changers. What is a relationship or unexpected collaboration that has really shifted your path?
Yeah, there are a lot of those moments, I've had a lot of lives, and really fruitful, exciting, passionate experiences. That's a lot of people ask, like, how's it, being in your 30s is the best time of your life. I literally every stage of my life. Don't get me wrong, there's been down times. I lost my dad. I was scared to come out. But like I've always been the same Mike. You can ask any of my friends who have been with me through and through. So Natalie, there's so many moments where people showed up for me in the ways I didn't expect it. And, I think I've always been afraid to ask. We are almost embarrassed, or our ego hurts when we don't feel like we're in control and need to be dependent on each other. And I know in my mindset, I've never wanted to be a burden on anyone else. So going back to what I said, I don't want to be a burden, but one that stands out is, really building the proper group and how I was really able to kind of listen to a lot of the maybe, I guess, issues that people were going through, or maybe phases of their lives where they felt like, they have all the things, they feel like their life is full, but their one thing that's missing is like their journey professionally. And either they have these big jobs and they're just bored and it's stale and they need the paycheck to pay the kids' college and mortgage and all of that. But it's also one of those things where they just don't know where to start. So what I did with the proper group is really focused in on providing an ecosystem and an incubator to launch people to basically get out of their silo, be able to use their experience and expertise to help small to medium companies get to their next level. and work smarter rather than harder. Who needs to work an extra 40-hour, a 40 traditional 40-hour work week? Work with a few, small to medium companies instead of a full-time, huge company that, drains the soul out of you. Switch things up. So that shift, when I stopped trying to do everything myself, started inviting others in, like I did with the proper group. And like I said, kind of bringing more people around the table to surround myself, not just as helpers, but as co-creators. That's when things really took off with the proper group, because, we were one thing. And then I'm like, okay, why don't we bring in this dream C-suite and get these seasoned people who have done it, who created the systems, who've done the processes, who, vetted technology, but not only help our clients, let's practice what we preach. We're growing in a certain way with the proper group that I can get it to a certain point, but let's leverage all those other people's skills to optimize and make it a new model. So what I've learned is that we're not meant to build, big things alone. The right people don't just lighten your load, they elevate your vision. And so I think, going back to community and collaboration, I think you are who you surround yourself with. Those can be good people. Those can be bad people. Those people can challenge you. Those people can lower your values, but it's up to you. And going back to a lot of the stuff that you asked earlier, we put ourselves in that environment. I'm putting myself in that environment. So really taking control and putting myself in the positive environments is the most important. So
yeah.
By the way, I'm going to edit that one, Natalie. So don't
Okay.
feel, I know I went all over it, but I did have like key components that I'm like, oh, this is good. So I want to go that way.
Okay. Can I ask you this? Is it hard for you to ask for help?
Is it hard for me to ask for help? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's getting better now. Even during the, I write in the book about this, but, I took a shift before the proper group. I was going to go take over a friend's company. It was going to be financially rewarding, short-term and long-term. Didn't work out. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to what I know. But I took a little bit of a break and refreshed and paused. It was my sabbatical, I call it, which I highly encourage. But when I decided, I'm like, okay, I'm going to start applying to jobs. And I was getting really C-suite level roles. That I was in final rounds of the interviews. And basically, long story short, it was the third quarter and the earnings were just coming back. In 1 week, it was actually my birthday week, 6 jobs like evaporated because we were going into a mini recession. And back then, marketing and strategy was kind of my bread and butter. And those are soft things that a lot of finance people who determine, what jobs need to be filled, that's usually one that will get tabled to the next fiscal year. So I knew selfishly that, I need to bring money in and whatnot. So it kind of forced me to kind of go on my own and figure it out. And so going back to the story, is it hard for me to accept things? Yeah, there were times where I'm just like, I didn't want to dip into savings. I didn't want to dip into retirement. And so I was stretching it because I took a year off, and I had fun and I traveled and I spent money. And like, there were times where I'm like, am I going to be able to pay for this? Or am I going to be able to pay for that? And I never told anybody, that's the hardest thing. Cause I'm just like, people have, in my mind, I feel like people have expectations for me. I've built a brand about that because I've always been independent and I've never had to rely on my parents after I graduated college, never had to rely on my friends or family. And so, yeah, it's really hard to ask for help and it's still really hard to ask for help. But I did have to ask for help, along the way. I think we're just growing and we're always growing and we're figuring that out. And so I never want to be a burden, but it's okay to ask for help because if people love you and they know you and they believe in you, they're going to invest in you. And so long story short.
Okay. Now we're both fans of fun. And what does fun look like to you now? Oh, especially we're in the thick of big projects and responsibilities. We do
I think fun used to be an escape, stay out until 2:00 in the morning, get drunk, that's still fun sometimes. I think we did that at New Year's, Natalie.
We did. God, I haven't done it since. That was intense. I was like, I think that's my last hurrah. That was a great time.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into, something I would squeeze into, after work or on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then when that was done, but now fun is really my fuel. It's dinner with friends after a chaotic week. It's blasting music like you, in the
Yeah.
car, listening to you on the radio.
Yeah.
It's turning a serious strategy session into something, creative and energizing. That's just not like things on a board. It's like, let's think outside of the box. Fun reminds me why I'm doing this in the first place.
Mhm.
If I'm not laughing, connecting or feeling joy, even in the busiest seasons, and it's been busy lately, then I know I need to reset. Success without fun isn't success to me anymore. I have a perfect example. When I started the proper group with Larry, I'm just like, I'm never going to work until noon on Mondays. I don't care. I don't care. And because my last 5 years professionally, I was getting burnt out and I was sick and tired of being the whipping boy. And I was sick and tired of not getting rewarded for my hard work. I would get those Sunday scaries. And on Mondays, I dreaded it. And now, 3 years later, and 2 years, 2.5 years of making the proper group, I'm up at 5 a.m. on Monday. I'm excited. I get to work with some awesome, cool clients. I get to work with awesome partners. I get to work with awesome people who help support me. And so I now am to a point where if it isn't fun, I'm not going to be doing it. And fun's different to other people. I love dorking out on a business plan and growing growth strategies and growth models to help these companies that I believe in that can't get there without someone like me get there. And then,
Yeah.
what the best thing is then working with them for a year or 2 years and to finally see them hit those goals. It's just the best.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then you got to
Yeah.
celebrate. You open
Yeah.
bubbles, you eat some caviar. So anyways, fun.
I think like I love to have fun now in ways like I will set a goal that seems a little out of reach, and then when I accomplish it, it's like the best fun you can have. And I think the journey to accomplishing that is really important too. And like that's where I find the most fun now.
Yeah.
And the same breath of what you were saying. All right, now, so okay. Ooh, if someone feels like they've outgrown their current life and don't know what's next, what would you say to them? I'm asking you right now. Please tell me. I think I've outgrown my current life. What is next? How do you get there? How do you find it? What do you do? What is your
Well, I
process like?
I wrote a really strong book in the making. Go buy it. But in chapter 2, the prelude to change, I believe that's what the chapter is called. It's
Mhm.
really about when life pushes you off the script. I'd say to you or to anybody listening, you're not lost.
Yeah,
That's the important thing to remember. You're just in the part of the story that hasn't revealed itself yet. That's a discomfortable feeling for most
yeah,
people. Let's just be honest. But that's not failure, it's transformation. The messy middle. No one likes to talk about it. People
no,
like to talk about the Cinderella story. What
yeah,
happened at the beginning when she was cleaning the closets for her stepsister, and then the happy ever after. And, I think Cinderella taught us that messy middle, meeting the prince and, needing to be resilient against those stepsisters. And so no one ever talks about that. So I'm glad Cinderella talked about it.
in the
But yeah.
in the messy
Um,
middle, do you ever feel like you're doing something wrong?
Absolutely, because I think it's all about making calculated moves that have more risk, but they're quick risks. So
Mm,
like it's like, fail fast, fail cheap kind of mentality. So
uh-huh.
like I'm testing things constantly, but I'm doing it at a micro level instead of macro level. I'm learning from those micro levels so I can bring them to life in a macro situation. So if you're not failing, you're not succeeding. And that's not just a punchline. You grow not only as a person, but as a product, as a company, as like failure helps you reinvent and circumvent other failures, so it's just building armor, and making things better by what you've learned. And that's really what I'm trying to do with the book is, I have failed a lot, and
Yeah,
I want to be able to help people who may have been in my shoes as a young Mike overachiever, or a Mike climbing the corporate ladder, or the Mike who took a wrong turn and turned it upside down and is now happy in doing what he's doing. I want them to learn from my mistakes and failures, because if I can help one or two people, it's going to be amazing. And so lastly, what I would just say is, the key is not to rush it either, and this isn't for everybody, but like sometimes being uncomfortable is the best thing, to kind of be, I want you to remember, sit with it, ask yourself, what's pulling at me right now? What's taking my energy away? What's dimming my light? What feels heavy and what feels light? That's
What's
your
pulling at
compass.
me? What's pulling at me is really powerful. When you talk about failure, specifically, is there one failure that comes to mind? And would you mind sharing your story about it a
Yeah.
little bit?
Yeah. I think the failure is, I wouldn't call it a failure, because I thought it was a calculated risk. Like, I left running a huge multi-billion-dollar business for a big company. I loved that job. And I left because I had an opportunity arise that, one, thought I was going to work with a cool person, who was a friend. They built this company, 30-year-old company, making a lot of money, made this human extremely wealthy. This person was never married, never had kids, so they needed a succession. I said no because I was having fun in my corporate job and I had a lot of opportunity to continue to climb. Did I always have something that I wanted to own my own business or be my own boss? Yes, that's been a constant in the past 10 years. But I was happy with what I was doing. And so this human kept on pursuing me and had her friends keeping pursuing me. I kind of opened up the hood of the business, kind of a hot mess business, but they made a lot of money. It was kind of one of those businesses by accident. And I'm like, I can take what I learned over the past 20 years professionally, in 5 years, double it from a 30 million business to a 60 million business. And so I said no initially because they wanted to hire me to be the president and day to day. And I'm just like, I make the same amount of money at this role, and there's a lot more opportunities. And as I grow, that's only going to scale. And at the end of the day, we're at the game where money is important to us because we're building our life. And so after about 3 months, that person came back and was like, well, what if we were owners together? And, I'm a certain age and I'm going to want to exit. So what if I gave you, the company by, hitting goals and KPIs, and by year 5, you own half of the company because we grew it together. Either we're having fun, we continue to make a lot of money, and to continue to help the people who work there continue to make money and have a job. You have enough equity in the company, you can buy me out, and this is 100% yours. So that's where I was like, that's a game changer, because that's the golden ticket. That's, long-term wealth while maintaining what I would be making in a traditional corporate role. So I was thinking, definitely with, and I went back to that board of directors, Natalie, and I'm like, what do you think? And some of these people who knew this person were just like, absolutely not. Train wreck, stay away. But you know what? My stomach and my heart, not my brain, decided to go that route. And, the failure was not listening to the people who knew that person really well. And it could have saved me a lot of tears, a lot of negativeness that happened for almost 6 months. Because I've always been a calculated human. I'm a hot mess outside, but I'm very calculated.
I
So,
vibe with that hard. Well, during that time, you learned a lot the hard way. I vibe with that as well. Is overall, it sounds like you're grateful for what happened.
yeah, it pushed me.
What are some key things that you've taken away?
Listen to those around you. Remember, those who have been in your life have been in your life for a long time, because they're there for you no matter what. It's okay to take a risk. I think what I was trying to get to was the prelude that pushed me over the edge. And I know I said the recession pushed me over the edge, but I wouldn't have got there and left that really awesome corporate job to not be able to get another awesome corporate job. That was really the catalyst that brought me the proper group. And Natalie, you know me, I'm so happy right now. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm growing this company amazingly. I wrote a book, I created a podcast, things I would not have thought 4 years ago that
Yeah.
so I just really think, like, going back to the question, what I would tell somebody is you don't need the full picture. You just need one brave next step, and to surround yourself by a good support system.
Do you
So, oh yeah.
Well, do you think it's true that a lot of people have to face a lot of failure before they really launch? Or I feel like I'm listening to your story, and this seems like a story that is not new to anyone, but very, very specific and individual to you.
Yeah.
And do you think that one really needs to go through this some sort of life reconfiguration? I don't want to say destruction, but it wasn't up to you. So it kind of, you know what I
So,
mean?
so I
A,
think
a
I think,
crumbling of sorts in order to
yeah.
build this
Well,
way.
I think
You
I
hear
think
that story all the
failure.
time. Do you think it's true? That like that
Yeah.
we have to do this? Yeah.
No. I do think it's weird if someone goes and reinvents themselves that there wasn't a catalyst to it. So I
Yeah.
think failure is different to everybody. I think that's an important thing to remember. You have people who have just amazing ideas, and then they're like, I just need to do this. They finally have either enough confidence in themselves, they have enough financial support, they have enough to be able to go take the risk. So that does happen. That's usually what happens, and usually they either succeed or they fail, and then that's their failure. But yeah, I think a lot of the times it does take a big thing to push you over the edge.
Mhm.
And I'm almost a little worried that if people haven't failed, because I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm that token person who never failed until this happened. I've never been told no. I've never had to apply for a job. I always was recruited, and I've been with some amazing companies. And then when the shit hits the fan, the shit hits the fan. And I'm glad it happened before now instead of when I'm 50, because I don't know if I would have been able to rebound.
A lot of people don't. So they truly don't. So this is just amazing and like pure, speaks to your character a lot of what you've turned it into, which is just fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, Natalie. That was an awesome interview. You took me in so many different directions, which was awesome. Again, I really think, you don't need the full picture. You just got to be willing to take the next step. Natalie, we're going to go back into another segment of talking about your story. And I'm so excited because I can be off the hot seat and I can be back in the,
God, I feel like in my role. Okay.
but at the end of the day, we're all in the making, and we have more when we return. In the Making, out today in print, digital, on Amazon. Get your copy today at amzn.to/4C5S365. The link is in the bio. Let's build something real together. In the Making. Welcome back to In the Making. I'm with Natalie Jones. So Natalie, before we wrap, what's one thing you wish more people knew about you beyond the jokes, the sparkle jumpsuits, and the energy and all the fun?
That I am the most comfortable when I am at home with no makeup on, with my hair on top of my head, and like crafting and daydreaming. And my favorite thing to do in life is really show up for my family and my friends.
That's
Those,
amazing.
I feel like my favorite times in life are ones where there are no phones or cameras around at all. Just no one's taking pictures. And those are the moments that I cherish the most. I know we all say that, but I've been doing that a whole lot more recently, and like not posting as much or whatnot, and I would like to move into more moments like that in my life.
I think that's beautiful, and I aspire that for myself as well. I just think we find what's important when we're at this age because we're more grounded.
Yeah.
And we're really becoming adults and not kids really anymore.
For sure. I always say that I'm 10 years behind everybody else and a late bloomer in life. As Mark Twain said, I want to move to Cincinnati because everything happens 10 years later. as per, yeah, and Natalie Jones as well. I feel like I'm going through a lot of same things that my 30-year-old friends can really commiserate
Should we
with.
make shirts?
Seriously.
Let's make merch. That's amazing. So what's something that's currently in the making for you right now?
I really think I'm moving more into my family vibes. I've talked about it a lot. Like my dad dying in that whole process changed me hardcore. And I feel like I'm just now coming out of it. I'm still living my life in a lot of the same ways, but inside I'm a lot different. And I am moving towards making decisions for myself. As we said, as a recovering people pleaser, and realizing what I really want and prioritizing that, which seems to be like a soft family thing. As crazy as it sounds, I never got jealous or never had that intuition come to me to want to live any sort of domesticated, soft life at all. Not at all. I was just always loving my life and the decisions that I made. Really, that's calling me more. And I feel like it's a really sad part of my life that I don't know how to grapple with. That when I'm alone, when I'm thinking about what I want in the future, it's not all these huge, big professional dreams anymore. And it's really sad and terrifying. That's all I've ever known and all I've ever wanted. And now I feel like I don't really know anymore. And it didn't,
Well,
and like my wildest dreams didn't happen. So are they never going to happen now? Or what happens next? And I really don't know. No.
I think, that gave me chills right there. But like, I think it's okay and important to recalibrate what those dreams and goals are. I think it's a good time to like gut check, is that still the priorities that you want? I think we set those goals and aspirations when we're kids. When we get told in our society, we have to figure out what we want to do for the rest of our life when we're a young adolescent.
Yeah.
And no one should be made to make that decision. So one thing that I'm just going to tell you is, you can always make new goals and reprioritize and refocus, but also remember, sometimes when you're not looking, that it hits. And when it hits, just think of all the work you did to help get you to where you are. So
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. So going a little bit deeper, what's a dream you haven't told many people yet, but that lives in your heart?
Oh, am I even allowed to tell you? I haven't told anybody yet. I
Whoa,
do.
exclusive.
I do really want to have a family. And I think that the more I'm getting into, I think, all right, here's the deal. I feel like as much as no one wants to admit it, a big part of me has always thought that like, oh, I'll marry somebody and like be taken care of in a way that will make the stress of my life easier. And I can just focus on my little life and having fun and not worrying about making ends meet, X, Y, and Z. And now I've realized that my dream is that I want to do it all. And I really want to focus on family moving forward, but on my family moving forward, which I've never really done.
I
So
love that. Well, I think it's important to put yourself first. And I think it's hard for us to put ourselves first. And it's not being selfish, it's being, honest. And I just think that's beautiful. So, well, yeah. So what you shared, Natalie, is such a beautiful reminder that our futures don't always arrive fully formed. Remember that.
that's true.
They emerge, I guess, piece by piece. And I love Kelly Clarkson reference. And as we keep on showing up, and I think that's the important part, is just keep showing up and be the person you are, be the person that your parents built you, that they're proud of you for. So, I really reflect, in chapter 18 of In the Making, I wrote all about how easy it is to feel like we're falling behind, especially in a world constantly with constant ask. They're always asking us, what's next? What's next? What's next? But the truth is, really, I believe most of us aren't behind. I guess we're just.
I think I have realized that I'm always going to be evolving and always going to be going through some sort of change or crisis. As I say, I'm having a midlife crisis now. My brother humbly reminded me that I had one at 20 and I had a crisis at
Quarter
25.
life crisis.
And then I had one at 31 or 29 to 31. That was a whole process, but that process brought me here. He's like, start another cycle, dude. And I think it's great. I've come to terms with like, that's who I am. That's the type of creator and artist that I am. And I am here for it, as scary and daunting as it is.
You're a gypsy at heart.
Amen. Dude, hold on. I didn't tell you this before. So, I mean, I lived in Colorado, but I also lived in North Carolina, South Carolina, Colorado, and California. And I moved between the four of them a lot, all through my 20s. It was like did the tourist thing a lot. And
I love that.
With the flow. It was great. I lived out of like my entire life fit in my car, and I could sleep in it for my entire adult life until I was 32. I got my first apartment, which is in this building that we have now.
That is crazy. That's another like entire episode, but we people won't listen, unfortunately. No. So as we wrap this, whatever it's still, whatever in the making means to our listeners, whether it's a wild dream or quiet shift, remember, it's worthy even now before it's complete. So more to come back with Natalie as we wrap up our show. This has been a beautiful conversation. In the Making, out today in print, digital, on Amazon. Get your copy today at amzn.to/4C5S365. The link is in the bio. Let's build something real together. In the Making. Welcome back to In the Making. I'm with Natalie Jones. Just such an amazing guest. So much fun. Natalie, thank you for bringing every part of yourself today. The joy, the depth, the honesty, and of course, the fun. It's rare to find someone who can make you laugh hard and think deeply in the same breath. Yeah. But you do it effortlessly every day. And I love listening to you on the radio. I love when I get to spend time with you at a party. It's just, you're just a really amazing human to watch. So
thank you. Right back at you.
Yes. So to everyone listening, if you ever felt that you're too much or not enough, if you ever found yourself somewhere between who you were and who you're becoming, let this conversation be your reminder. Let's all preach this, Natalie. You're not lost.
Yeah, no.
You're not broken. You're just in the making. Keep going. The best parts of the story are still unfolding. Thank you so much, Natalie, and everybody have a great day.
Thanks, Mike.
Welcome to In the Making podcast. Please like and subscribe and engage. We want to hear from you. In the Making is now available for digital pre-order on Amazon. Get your copy today at amzn.to/4C5S365. The link is in the bio. Let's build something real together. In the Making.